Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Way of the Warrior. My name is Trevor Martin, and I am the founder of RMF Coaching. And if you're familiar with some previous episodes, you know that I like to go out into social media and find warriors similar to my same mindset, meaning they're out trying to promote goodness and kindness into this dark world via their personal or professional lives. Now, it just so happens that I've come across another warrior. Her name is Jessica Preston, and she's going to be taking us through a bit of a journey today. She talks about what she's accomplished and what she's been through to get to present day. Jessica, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Trevor.
No problem. I got to tell you, so before we kind of take a little deep dive back into into your history, into your past, I've got to tell you, in the short amount of time that I've known you, you've had a pretty significant impact in my personal growth and my personal life. So first of all, I want to thank you for that. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but I wanted to get get that out there right away for audience. There's certain individuals that you will meet in your lifetime. They're going to set you up for success in ways that you don't even know, you don't even clearly understand until it happens. So definitely keep your eyes and ears open for that. And make sure, I know we'll talk about this in the episode, but make sure you're getting Jessica Preston on your roster because she's a heavy hitter and you're going to need her. Jessica, so I'm excited. I'm super excited about this. Take us back a little bit. So I've had personal conversations with you about some of the individual things that you've been through, but have you always had this mindset, that go get 'em mindset, that establishing businesses, things like that? Has that always been something that you've wanted to do and been able to do?
Well, I've always wanted to, but I haven't always been able to. So this is a wonderful question and a place to start. I think as hopefully your listeners try to give yourself that introspective lens on your own self when we're having this conversation. When I started in how can I help more people, it was very much an internal thought that I didn't know how I was going to get out in the world. And a lot of that comes from being curious and having curiosity. Going into science, my background's biochemistry and medicine, and my main goal is really to help people better themselves in functional medicine, which is a biochemistry-based medicine. And I really did focus on the fertility space, but I couldn't actually get there. And it was a challenge for myself on how come it's not happening? How come I can't get more out there? And
Right.
I had a cascade of a lot of personal, impactful things that happened that felt like uh, uh, things are just hurdles in my
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
What do I need to get by? What do I need to get past? I've never felt defeated. I'm not a defeated person. I've never had that, but I have been in that space of uh, I don't know what the next step is, or I don't know how to look outside of that internal lens for myself to be able to
Rich.
help, help get me further faster. And so about what is it, 2024? About 5 years ago, about in 2017, I found myself drowning. I was drowning in the clinic space. I was running a very busy clinic with my partner at the time. I had two small children. I had a husband who was not very supportive, and I was just drowning. And then I got sick.
Mm.
And so I found myself in the functional medicine space, healing myself through that illness into health. And a big part of that is grabbing on to your own bootstraps and basically lifting yourself
Okay.
up. And of course, I did have people in my life that helped me, but it was that same introspective lens that I had on what I was giving for other people that made me get bigger, bolder, and louder in that space.
So you know me, my cheeks are gonna hurt. I'm gonna start smiling when I hear bigger, badder, and louder, right? It's amazing. You were talking about, you're raising, did you say two young children, right?
I do have twins, yes.
Yeah. So two young children at the time, right? And having a spouse that may have not been, may have not been very supportive of your endeavors, things like that. And then on top of it, you mentioned getting ill, getting sick. All of those things, you combine all of those things on an individual's shoulders, and that's liable to bring them to their knees, right? And often we see, especially in entrepreneurship, we see people they'll cancel a launch. That they'll just, that's the universe telling me that I wasn't made for this. I can't do this. But instead, I hear you talking about, nah, listen, I went through those things. I got bigger, badder, and louder. That, now that will light some fires under some people's asses, just hearing that. What, how do you think? So when you talk about bigger, badder, and louder, what steps did you take? Getting obviously healing, getting over the sickness, but what steps did you take to make sure that you kept getting bigger, badder, and louder?
I love that question, Trevor. Thank you. Because what I really want people to hear in that message of it seems like things are pushing you down or in a certain way, what I would love people to listen to when they are confronted with that is instead of it being something that puts you down, it's contrast. It's the world demonstrating to you that you're not in the right place. You're not doing the right thing. So if it seems like you're going in that direction, but nothing is working your way, stop and listen. And it doesn't mean I'm not a victim mentality. So it wasn't, oh,
Right.
well, this person's holding me down, or oh, that now got in my way ever. It's okay, this is so much conflict. And it got to the point where I was working at a clinic where I was driving to work every day, not wanting to go. And I was only going for my patients because I had been there for 18 years and I felt obligated to take care of them. And so it got to a point where I was driving there with so much heartache pain in my heart that all I could say to myself is, there is so much contrast happening right now. What's on the other side of it's got to be so good. So when you're hit with that, when you're hit so hard with contrast, with all this shit's coming your way, and it looks like it's really holding you down, think to yourself, okay, this is the universe or God or your environment or quantum telling you you're not on the right track. You're supposed to shift. Pay attention, and then see which direction you need to go. So that's what I did. I got a divorce. I actually left that clinic job. I actually had a laboratory come in and take me out of the clinic, and I ended up the VP of Medical Affairs for a laboratory for 3 years.
Nice.
And I was in that space. Now, I was fully intending to launch what I have now, which is a nationwide coaching service with functional medicine at its core. So it's functional wellness coaching to help people naturally conceive. We have an 80% success rate. And now we've expanded beyond that to all areas of wellness. And as we'll talk about later, I'm now in the, unleash your alpha masculine space as well, this which you and I are working in. So all of these things have come to fruition because I started listening, paying attention, still moving forward and being curious. So yes, that contrast comes your way, but you have to keep moving. So I went into the lab space and I have to explain to you, I love everything I do. I find everything I do to be exciting. I think that there's always something fun and creative that you can work with wherever you are. But after a couple of years in the lab space, I felt that I wasn't on my true mission, purpose, passion, which was to help the infertility space.
Hmm.
And so a big whirlwind happened. We all lost our jobs, and I ended up starting this company. And it's so funny because I think people usually feel sad or something when they lose their job, and everyone was like, wow, that must be, it was the perfect storm. It was exactly what I needed. I had so much gratitude. I now had a severance package to help launch my business. I'd already started an incubator program to be able to learn how to launch the business. I didn't know how I was going to do two at the same place. So it was lovely to be removed from that job. And then I went through the incubator program. I won their pitch competition. I got a little funding and a little bit of press, and then off to the races we went. And so if you just keep on that vision, keep that in your mind's eye of if you're not feeling like it's right, it probably isn't. Understand that there's better on the other side when so much contrast is coming your way. It's not going to knock you down. You'll be able to stay in your warrior state. So all of that came to fruition where I started really believing that and seeing those vision, that being that visionary of seeing what
Yeah.
can come next. In about that started around 2017 for me when I started experiencing that, and I made myself well, got a divorce, left the job, left the lab. Now here I am doing this. I have my own television show now, The New Health on Now Media. I'm meeting wonderful people like yourself all out in the world. Like attracts like. I'm a big quantum physics person. And when you are resonating at a certain frequency, you attract people in that same frequency into your environment. And you are those people. You are the people that you are around. So we
Yeah.
have to continue growing and building in that resonance and in that quantum space so we can keep elevating ourselves so we can elevate other people. And automatically people get drawn to you in that space.
Yeah, isn't it crazy? Like, so there's two things here. You're saying it in a totally different way when you're talking about people getting drawn into your space. But you hear all the time, right? It's on t-shirts, it's wherever, it's on posters, everybody's memeing it, everybody's throwing it on Insta. What the conversation is different when you're at the table with warriors, right? They say sit at the table with warriors, the conversation is different. You're saying the exact same thing, right? Hey, surround you when you're going to attract when you're churning along at that frequency at that level, people can't help but go, "Oh, I'll have what he's having." Like how the like I want some of that, right? Like how do I get there? What do I need to do? What steps do I need to take? Which we'll get into talking about, hey, I want to be better, what do I need to do, Jessica, help me out, like, right, you're talking about mentally, physically, right, nutritional value, all of those things feeding into, right, the best version of self. The other thing that I wanted to point out, and I'm reminded, I found a picture, and it was a sword covered in tar, black tar, and it was lit. And in my mind, I instantly, right, I'm imaginative my mind can get, right? I'm painting this picture of this warrior that's been stuck in the mire, stuck in the tar of life, right? The tar's just trying to drag him down, like, no, you're not going anywhere. But nah, the warrior's like all that past, all that all that tar pulling me back, trying to hold me back. I'm gonna light it on fire and I'm gonna use it as my blade, and it's
Yeah.
going, or on my blade, and it's going to light my way forward, right?
Yes.
So when you're talking about get through to the other side, and to your point, so many times when you're like, oh, you lost your job, people are like, oh man, that's too bad. You're like, well, freedom, let's go. And what I'm gonna do is gonna blow your fucking mind. And when you see on the other side of this, I love it. Like that right there fuels me, being able to hear and understand that other people have been down, not out, but they've been down and they've come through the fire on the other side, have been like, hey, slaying giants and kicking ass every day.
Yeah, and I'd love to throw something out in there also. I want to make a point, which I've never made before on a podcast, or I don't think I've even made in conversation. The same man who helped me get out of my toxic clinic situation is the same man who fired me. Let me look at it a different way. The same man who fired me is the same man who took me out of a very toxic situation. I have absolutely nothing negative to say about this human being. Like all of these processes
Hmm.
that we come across in life, we work with people in different ways to get where we're supposed to get on our warrior mission, our mission. And all of those people that are playing a part with us, you might take a look at them and think that they're the enemy, and they may very much not be. That same person who let me go, who that might have been, I mean, and it was getting tense at the end, which is that same contrast, right? Saying,
Yeah.
you need to go, which we need to listen to. So I think we need to invite the experience of feeling the negative so that we can see it for what it actually is, which is to get us on the path we're supposed to be on. And that tar you're talking about on the blade, I love that because that also says the dark corners of our own selves, we don't eliminate them, we light them on fire. We show the light on the dark corners. We say, there you are. What can you do for me? How is that dark part of me going to help fuel the light?
Yeah. And I think, I'm grinning ear to ear because we've talked about this, in other discussions, right? That those dark parts, like, hey, this has been so ingrained in me. It's who it's part of who I am. But what I love and why I smile so big is like, hey, look, I'm not saying get rid of those. Those are integrated, those are part of you. But what I am saying is you get to choose what you do with them. You get to choose to light those on fire and to light those, to your point, the different corners to expose, to find other avenues to proceed forward with that power in tow. I think, and you know this from our discussions as well, like that for me personally, like how you chose to view like the individual firing you, right? And how you spun that narrative in your mind and how you defined it, that is one of the biggest challenges for me in my life is looking at things through that lens consistently. Now, what I mean by that is there's some times where I'll be like, oh yeah, I can totally see the silver lining in this. Other times I'm like, there's no way. You know what? It's all doom and gloom. There's absolutely zero positivity here, and I don't know what to do. Right? So whatever. It is what it I hate this the
Well,
line.
that's what we work on, though. I mean, that's what you and I are working on. It's
Yeah,
like when you say, I don't know what to do, I can help you see what that might be from a different lens because you're in the thick of it. You are in the mud. In those moments, you're in the mud, and I'm outside of it helping you because I learn people really quickly because of the work I've done and the work I'm doing. And
right?
so it's really easy for us to get there. It took us no time to get there together, if you don't mind me sharing a little bit
Yeah.
of our work together. So that's been uh, really insightful. And have you ever, I'm going to ask you a question now. Have you ever felt shame when I'm talking to you about dark corners in your life?
No, I haven't. I have not felt shame. No, not at all.
Yeah. Have you ever felt called out when I've talked to you about?
No,
It's the
not
whole
not not
purpose.
at all. In fact, I would say out of all the conversations that I've had regarding that, regarding the dark corners and things like that, the conversations I've had with you have been where I felt extremely supportive. And I actually know one of the reasons is that there's no pushing. You're simply like, hey, you talk it out. Now I'm going to break certain segments of that down and get you to see what you're actually saying about what you went through. Like what's the underlying like, and how does it not only that, but how is it truly affecting you now? And how can you, this was the part that hooked me or that got me. How can you use it for your power forging forward? Because I remember saying, hold on a second, like this is so much who I am. Please do not like I can't get rid of this. It's part of me. I don't want to get and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Right? Settle down, son, settle down. Right?
Mhm.
Just Trevor, you're not getting rid of it. Here's what we're going to do. And I'm not gonna no spoiler alerts for people. You gotta talk to Jessica yourself. You'll figure it, she'll help you through it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, and this is why I love men's work so much because bringing the feminine to the space with the masculine is, I think so. I think men have to do men's work with men in some regards, and I think then in some other parts of the entire wholeness of a man, working with the feminine is so beneficial because it's exactly that. It's a gentleness. It's a
Absolutely.
gentleness that allows you to see where things are. And we never want to get rid of our darkness. I think that's where there's such a conflict because people say, they're doing their work and they're going to get rid of whatever traumatic past or nothing goes away.
Right.
It's all ours. We need to learn how to own it, look at it, process it for what it is, and then we make the choice of what we want to do with it. And I have a
Amazing.
team of coaches for that are incredible. I have the most incredible culture in my company. And we take a trip once a year up to the beach on Lake Huron, and we're in Michigan, and most of us are. And we were up there for a couple of days on the beach. And this year we just did it in August, and I sat there and one of the things that I remember saying to everyone so clearly that I knew they needed to hear was, you know what I love the most about each and every one of you are your quirks. They're those things that you probably don't like about yourself, but those are our unique pieces of ourselves that I think we can look at with a shameful lens when we're younger or before we've done the work, but they're really so much of our strength, so much of our strength. And they bring me joy in my heart, like true joy when I think of those people in my life and their little quirks. I have my own. I use these examples all the time. I'm going to use this one now. And I was dating someone for a minute. I'm divorced, so I was a while back, and basically I had spent the night with him. He said, you snore. And I said, I do? He said, yeah. And I said, I bet that was adorable. And he said, he chuckled like that, and he said, it was. So, you know what? And I actually, it's so funny that that happened because before that happened, I actually had that conversation with my team on our Friday morning meetings. And I said, you know what? If I was told I snore, I would just say it's adorable. I actually had that same commentary to myself. If this man actually watches this podcast, it's going to be very interesting. So anyway, it's, it was something I said, I would exactly say, I think that's adorable. Look at those things within ourselves. There are certain areas that aren't our strengths. Look at that from a lens of how other people would perceive that as charming. And that's the other thing I say, this is part of my charm. So, each of those little intricacies, and maybe women can do this better than men because I know how this is coming across. And so, but still, it's those parts of us are unique and special, and they get to be charming. And
Yeah.
so instead of us hammering ourselves over things that we think might be a flaw, or we were told they were a flaw at some point in time, maybe we get to give ourselves some grace. And maybe they even are those dark corners. Shed light on them, as we said, how we choose to, so that we can become whole and complete. And when we're whole and complete like that, we can do anything, anything. No one can say a word to us. No one penetrates into our mind, body, soul.
Yeah. That you know me, like when we start talking about the power within, I get fucking lit up. So let me ask, so that's a perfect segue into talking about like present, like present, present day. So I've been, personally, like I've been working with you and you've talked about kind of like expanding into some that you were talking about some of the coaching that you're already doing, but you're expanding into this alpha, right? This alpha aspect, right? Tell us a little bit more about what that's going to look like and what you're specifically looking to do when it comes to, helping men in their day to day, in their being their best self.
Thank you so much for that invitation, Trevor. I'm really excited about this work. I've always loved working with men. I've spent the majority of my career working with women, working with the feminine, and I'm very familiar with the feminine masculine dynamic. And in our programs that we have for fertility, they're couples programs, and we teach intro to tantra, we teach intimacy and eroticism so that we can get couples connected together. And then we have men's coaches too. So we split into men and women. Those are men doing men's work in that space,
Nice.
women doing women's work in that space. And so that's where I help women discover how they can bring some of their vulnerable selves into surrender so they can become more feminine for their masculine partner. And so I have a space for that, and that I'm doing in the fertility space. And what
Okay.
I'm doing in the masculine space, in the masculine workspace, is mostly working with men who are at the top of their game when it comes to their professional lives. And the reason I say that is when we are at the top of our game with our professional lives as men, men have focused on that aspect more than they have on their personal lives. Okay, so they've made that choice and they
Fair.
get very boxed in and compartmentalized in their masculine space, and they haven't necessarily done the masculine feminine dynamic work. So everybody and men, especially when they're in corporate, high level corporate, pretty much taught to ignore those dark corners because they're weaknesses. That's a weakness. I am here to tell you it's not, it's a strength. If you are allowing yourself to find those dark corners, allowing yourself to look into them and to incorporate them into your whole completeness, we're going to get you to be able to penetrate the world like you penetrate your woman. Okay, so this is some of that masculine work that we do. Like, I help you find exactly where those parts are so you can be whole and complete. Feel that extra energy come into yourself. You become more creative. You have more energy. You sleep better. Your testosterone goes up. I mean, these are not, as an educational, I have no guarantees on that. That's a medical disclaimer for you. Being a medical person, I have to tell
Of
you,
course.
I can't, without testing and all this. So that's the area that I'm working in right now. And I am working with accredited capitalists right now, which is a very, it's a not global, it's a nationwide high net worth networking group.
Yeah.
And so I'm working with them in wellness and longevity in this same space. And what we did is I decided to open it up to men who are not in that group. So basically at denovofunctionalmedicine.com, that is where we have our website. And then I'm putting together a Patreon for people who can't can't come in and get on my list or aren't ready to work with me yet, they can get videos once per week where it's $39 and you can just get them once per week so you can get some tidbits of information. And then there are opportunities to work with me, but I only have about 10 slots open right now. And then those people I work with, they get to stay in those programs. I have 3 month, 6 month, and 1 year programs,
Okay.
and they are prioritized. And as soon as they leave, then I go to the next person if they are ready. But I do prioritize the people that I have right now. And I'll be honest, I haven't been on there in 2 days, so I haven't actually looked because it's the weekend. Well, I guess Friday. I went on yesterday morning, so I'm not exactly sure where we are in numbers. But as you know, I just started this. And
Yeah.
I'm going to credit you with that because you absolutely have, I get that same validation from you that you get from me because I love seeing this in action. I love seeing you uh, just thrive in this space. So it is a fairly connected space, wouldn't you say? I mean, we get to know each other
Yeah.
fairly intimately well. We have very deep conversation. I am available to you. And
Yes.
so we do mostly conversation, but there's also, as you had said, biohacking. We have some availability to be able to do some testing, some device work, there, depending on what each person needs. And we'll go from there.
And I will say this too, right? So I will say that first of all, I absolutely love the explanation, and I know that audience knows she just delivered a lot of information there. So if you go back and like rewind and rewatch, more importantly, you're going to get a lot of that information like firsthand from just simply contacting Jessica and asking her. She can walk you through all of that in more detail. I'm going to speak real quick on the nutritional side, right? Recently, you're talking about that testing, going through that testing, and then having you break down, hey, Trevor, here's what I'm seeing via these test results. Here's what I am, and in discussing with you, reading with you, like looking through these, I'm recommending, obviously due to your expertise in the field, I'm recommending this for this, this for this, and this for this. Here's your daily, daily supplements, things like that, and then go do. Now, I will say from on a personal level, right? What I've been able to accomplish in my training. So you're talking about sleep, you're talking about working out, you're talking about the ability to focus at work on top of the high octane released throughout the workouts, right? I work out in the morning and then sometimes you get the two a day. So you get work out in the morning and then you go to work. Having putting all that energy out, I want to make sure that I'm able to obviously focus at work. So and this is allowing me to do that, allowing me to stay focused on the things that I need to focus on, be there for they're over here, be there for my family, right? Things like that. And it's truly all encompassing. And I will say, I'll come clean. I'll say this at the beginning, I was like, okay, maybe, like, sure, like, right, like, all right. I'm like, look, listen, I'm a man. I can do it. I'm fine. Like, maybe I don't actually need help. Maybe I don't need all of that help. But to your point, when we actually sit and listen to learn rather than respond and understand that the other person on the other side, of which I'm not, you're the expert, I'm not in this field, listening to what they say, then going and applying the results, obviously, if applied correctly, the results speak for themselves. And that is what that's truly from me to you. That's what I love or that's why I love about working with you. So let's fast forward. What do you see? What's in the future, right? So you've just launched this, right?
Mhm.
You're super excited with this segment of it, excuse me. What's the future look like?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so open to, remember I said I don't have any contrast right now. Let me just be very clear. Like that whole what isn't working for me, everything is beautifully, it's beautifully growing and expanding. So I expect this is something that actually you haven't even heard yet. We're going to expand this masculine program into our fertility work because 40% of infertility has a male factor component. So we're going to expand some of that in that space as well. That's not happening right this moment. Right
Okay.
now, I'm really working on the Unleash Your Alpha program and making sure that I get that up and coming because I really have, well, all of a sudden I have a lot of men in need, and I I feel a sense of urgency to make sure I meet the needs of all of the people that are coming forward. I'm a firm believer that whatever you're supposed to be working on comes
Hmm.
in front of you as long as it isn't within contrast, especially if if it goes smoothly, if it flows smoothly like that, you are meant to be there. So I am working very strongly on that. So I'm curious to see what direction that goes, and I'm open to it. We are also starting fundraising in the next few months when it comes to a raise for our for de novo fertility for our fertility group. So we're expanding that. We have a new program coming out in January of this year called 2025 Year of the Healthy Baby. We have a very affordable program that is just a couple $100s as opposed to a high level coaching program to help people just have access to what the right things are to do. You go out there and you read online and it tells you to do this or that and this nutrition plan or that nutrition plan. And so we have a very I spent over 20 years in OBGYN. We have a very well put together concrete nutrition plan to help egg and sperm health and help optimize fertility and everything else that goes with it. So we have a very affordable one. So we're working on the marketing for that right now to launch that. And then basically, I think those are my two main focuses. And then ACAP, accredited capitalists, of course, because they just put me in charge of the health longevity and wellness program there. And so I want to build that out for the men in that space too. So.
So I'm all smart. That's huge because you're like when I'm thinking about the future, right? You're like naming off like that's a heavy hit, massive hit. Like yeah, I think that's good. I think I'll focus on those those three.
Wait, so the thing is, like, okay, so my twins are now, they turn 18 in 2 months. They raise me quite well at this point in time. They really, they drive, they have jobs, they're brilliant, they're doing all of their things. I'm single, so I don't have to worry about, I'm not saying worry about a relationship, but you know what I mean? I don't have to do the hard work of a marriage at this moment, so I don't have
Yeah.
to do that right now. So that's wonderful too. So I can really focus on all of this, and none of this is exhausting me. All of this is energizing me. I sleep incredibly well. I've been gifted with sleep. I fall asleep well. I wake up well, and I am a firm believer in just keeping on moving forward. I live in joy. I live in positivity. It's not hard to do. And I'm a big person. I believe in universal flow and everything that you're supposed to be doing comes your way. And you need to grab onto it. There's a book by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic out there, probably for your women more than your men. I don't know if your men would really grab onto this, but the premise is this. You are given things that are your mission, purpose, passion. And if you don't grab onto it, it's going to be taken away from you and given to somebody else. So if it's something you love, you better act on it now.
You know, couple things here. One is find something you love and call it work, right? And
Mm.
you can tell. So I'm just gonna say this. You can tell when people are faking it, like when they're like this, yeah, I love what I do and it's great, and right? But when you're talking, like I can feel all that genuine love for what you do, and joy for it, like just coming right through. That's the first thing. So find something you love and right and call it work. Clearly you're doing that, and clearly it's showing that once again, the proof is in the results of the work that you're doing. So when we talk about warriors putting light back out into the world, right? What did you say? This is the 2025 is the year of the what?
The year of the healthy baby. So anybody that's just trying to get pregnant, because just as an, I know we're running out of time, but
You're good.
the risk of autism in children in 2000 was 1 in 150. In 2010, it was 1 in 68. In 2020, it was 1 in 36. And a big reason for this is because our egg and sperm health isn't what it was. So what our plan does is we basically optimize your egg and sperm health through our nutrition program, our, sleep, exercise, relationship work,
Hmm.
all of this, but also, and stress management, but also our supplement line. So we basically help boost all of those parts, and they have been substantiated with science. We are evidence-based. I'm a scientist in the beginning, at heart. That is where everything is based here. And so when I used to work in the clinic, I would hear women come in saying, I'm getting married in 6 months. We want to try right away. What's the best thing I can do for my body to get a healthy baby? That's this program. So we made
Nice.
it, this is not the program for people who've been struggling to conceive. We have other programs for that you can find at denovofertility.com. But this one is You're the Healthy Baby. And what I want to do is I want to follow those babies, and I want to make sure that that trajectory of autism ticks down. That's my
That
intention.
that is sick. So that's actually going to be the perfect segue for already mentioned denovofertility.com. But so as we wrap this up, and which I absolutely hate to do, but how can the audience, Jessica, how can the audience get a hold of you? What, that you just talked about your website. What other platforms are you on? How can they get on your roster?
Thank you for that. So I'm on Instagram, Jessica underscore Preston underscore Denovo, Denovo. Okay, so that's my Instagram. I also have an Instagram for our company, which is Denovo Fertility. I'm on LinkedIn. Probably the best way to reach me is finding me on LinkedIn, Jessica Preston on LinkedIn. If you look up Jessica Preston Denovo Fertility, I pop up because I know there are a lot of Jessica Prestons. So that's how you can find me. I'm the at DenovoFunctionalMedicine.com. There is a way to leave a message if you have questions on
Perfect.
there that will come to me. So I will be able to get to receive that there. And I think those are, I'm on all socials. You can find us on TikTok. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me everywhere.
Okay. Well, I really, closing this out, I want to say thank you so very much for, I know you have a busy schedule. So thank you very much, especially on the weekend, for taking time, out of your busy schedule to meet with me, on Way of the Warrior to talk about what you're doing, not only what you're doing, but what you've been through to get here. There's going to be so many people, especially myself, including myself, rewatching this, right? They're going to take so much from this, understanding to your point, hey, it's what's on the other side. It's what's on the other side. And you need to put that on the back of a t-shirt. Oh, what was the other one? It was one of your first comments when I was making an introduction to ask you to be on Way of the Warrior.
When
Ah,
you said to me, "How's the fight?" And I said, "Walking with my head held high, barely noticing the bodies I'm stepping over."
yes, yes, that was it. And I'm like, yes, that needs to go in a t-shirt. Yes, that's what I'm
And
talking.
then that's how we met.
Yes. That's perfect. No, I absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, like seriously, you've got to get Jessica on your roster. Make it happen. Jessica, once again, thank you very much for your time. And I got to tell you, from me to you, like, thank you for being in my world, in my life, and for the help that you are providing me.
Well, Trevor, thank you so much. And if you'll just allow me to say, you're doing an incredible job and you are serving this community even more, the more work you do. And I'm watching it, even in the short amount of time that I've known you.
Well, I greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much. Audience, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you out there.